What's up, everyone? This is Sahil here, and welcome to the Sehgal Show, where I'm gonna be interviewing some crazy entrepreneurs out there who started from scratch with no experience, resources, and connections, and then later on became unstoppable and dominating figures in their respective businesses. We're gonna dive deep into the mindset of these super successful entrepreneurs to find out how they did it and how you can model it too. It's time to pick their brains and uncover all the strategies and tactics which these entrepreneurs use to scale their businesses from nowhere to multiple 6, 7, and 8 figures. Welcome to the Sehgal Show. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sehgal Show, where we interview some unstoppable entrepreneurs who are dominating figures in their businesses. Sahil here, back again with an awesome, insane guest. Our today's guest is really special. I'm super thrilled to have her today on our show. If you know the concept of Dream 100, then you need to know about this person. Our today's guest is Amanda Holmes. Amanda is the CEO of Chet Holmes International, which has worked with over 250,000, no, let me correct that, 250K businesses worldwide. She's the daughter of sales legend Chet Holmes, who wrote one of the New York Best Times best book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, and it's in the top 10 most recommended sales book of all the time. At the age of 24, she inherited her business father's multi-millionaire dollar enterprise, which specializes in helping companies double their sales. Without any further ado, let's welcome Amanda to our show today. Welcome, Amanda, to
Oh,
our show. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure and honor to have you.
absolutely. Such a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. People who are watching us live, put a hashtag live. If you're watching on replay, put a hashtag replay. Amanda, I'm really curious to know about actually your childhood, like being the daughter of somebody who was a professional speaker, a business tycoon. So, how was it growing up for you?
Great. Um, yeah, my father being a trainer by trade, one of the world's greatest, he trained on everything. So me and my brother got a lot of training on how to communicate because we'd go to dinner with his clients and, how to shake hands, how to shake correctly, how to look someone in the eye, how to be more interesting or be more interested than interesting. So always asking questions and yeah, a lot of karate training growing up. My father wanted me to feel that if I ever got in any situation that was scary or where I would need self defense, that I could because he was a fourth degree black belt. So we teach one of the things in his trainings is a thing called pig-headed discipline and determination. So mastery isn't about doing 4,000 different things. It's about doing 12 things 4,000 times. That's how he was able to double the sales of 9 different divisions for a billionaire by the name of Charlie Munger. And that same methodology goes throughout all of what we do, but specifically to my childhood, I can remember there was a span of about 2 to 3 years where my father would perpetually grab my arm, and then I would have to try and get out of that grip because he never wanted anybody to feel that they could grab me and that I couldn't get out. So he perpetually trained me on self defense and, flipping people and what what to do in those kinds of situations. So that's one thing that I can think of that it wasn't like he just showed me once. It was this game that we played nearly every week for years, so that I always just came away with this confidence that I could take care of myself. And I've traveled the world since by myself and have no problem with that, being a woman around the world. And I think it's because of a lot of the training that my father gave me at very young.
That's amazing. That's interesting. Love it. Glad we are having this interview virtually, not in person.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Good that he trained you not just mentally, not just in terms of business, but physically as well, which was it's amazing. Love it. And it, talking about your phase of life, that when you took this responsibility on your shoulders as the CEO at like very early age, at the age of 24, that you got that. What was the feeling at that time, and was it a pre-planned thing as well?
No, it was absolute horror.
Mm.
I wanted. So my father was diagnosed with cancer, which today, 1 in every 3 men will be diagnosed with cancer in the US today, and 1 in every 2 women. So it's something that, plagues a lot of families. And cancer really is a family disease because it affects everyone. So my father spent over 300 nights in the hospital during that year and a half that he was battling. He never spent a night alone. It was me, my brother, and my mother. We all just rotated pulling all-nighters with him in the hospital. And in all of those all-nighters, like, we were up all night long. We'd just be sitting in this hospital room. And never once did he sit me down and say, Amanda, if I don't make it through, here's what I want you to know about my businesses. That conversation never happened. So it was rather shocking, obviously, to go from that battling every day, life or death, hope dad makes it, it was very difficult. So now I'm on my own, and I didn't even know all the companies he ran. I can remember the first moment that I saw the P&L. I was sitting in, it's one of those moments that's just etched in my brain. I was sitting in my bedroom and I'm looking at it, and I can remember that all of the flowers were still there from my father's funeral. So many people left so many beautiful flowers. So I had lilies all over my room, and I was just, as I kept scrolling across to see all the different lines of business and all of the money and all of the expenses, I just started sobbing because how could I was a singer-songwriter at that point. How would I ever be able to do anything with this business and this huge amount of responsibility that had been thrown on my shoulders? So no, there was no plan for that.
I see. Yeah, it might be the most difficult moment, like at that age, 24. And I hope you guys have already have that hundred thousands of clients at that time, handling those people, doing meetings and all that stuff. Well, I'm curious to know, were you attending any meetings before, like when he was alive? Were you going to conferences, like events and stuff like that?
I mean, I I would go, like, he would have these business mastery events, and while they were running business mastery, I'd be in a tree playing a guitar. Like, it would have been great if I was actually in there watching. I only saw my father speak publicly. He was a public speaker, right, by trade. I only saw him speak once. It was for my college, and I had never read his book. So fairly shocking, obviously. However, I have to say that living around him and breathing it and listening to all the stories and being there for the client meetings and just interacting with him my whole life, I intrinsically knew all of his strategies because to me, they were it's just what you do. I'd been watching him my whole life. So while I didn't know the textbook answers, I had lived them watching him. So I noticed that when I went out into the real world and started interacting with companies and realizing that they weren't doing what I knew to be the right way to do marketing and sales and run an organization and run a meeting and, progress and grow, it baffled me. And that was also a little bit of a shocker too, because majority of my staff were, double my age, if not triple my age, because a consulting firm, right? You have people that are
Yeah.
seasoned, and our clientele on average are 55 years and above. I mean, it's getting a little bit younger. We're now seeing more 40 in their 40s and above. But so now to be surrounded by all of these older generations, the baby boomer generation, and thinking they must know it all. Obviously, they've been there for decades. There was this balance of honoring what they knew and that I could learn and be a sponge of all of these people, but then also honoring myself that I had some kind of knowledge of what my father had taught, and I had the ability, and I have had the ability over the last 10 years since my father passed to innovate and find places of innovation because I understand his concepts, but the tactical implementation of them has changed over the last decade. So I have
Mm.
been blessed with that, at least, to reimagine what my father created 40 years ago is now so relevant today. It just needed minor shifts.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's so true. And you mentioned about that you playing guitar at that. If today we could have make it happen. I don't know. You always say that. I saw in one of your interview you say that I always keep my guitar just at the arm's distance. I don't know if you have that today. I would love to hear that for 2 seconds even, if it's possible.
Oh, I don't have it within an arm's
Uh,
distance today. That's hilarious. But I
okay,
have been working on how to incorporate music
hmm,
into what I'm doing, because it's one thing. So many people come to a training and they're just not present, right?
yeah,
Absenteeism costs us billions of dollars a year because people are just scattered. And I find that music can create that presence, do that shift of, okay, let's bring you into the now. So I've been trying to figure out. So I have this one mantra that I learned from my guru. It's called, it goes, I'm happy, I love myself, my body's full of love and light. If you say that repeatedly for a minute to 2 minutes, I literally have people scale on a scale from 1 to 10 when I teach meditation. On a scale from 1 to 10, how stressed are you right now? And, they might be at a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or an 8. And in 2 minutes, without taking a pill, without paying for a therapist, without, you know, anything outside of yourself, buying something shiny, you can reduce your stress in such a short period of time just with the power of your own voice. So I would love to incorporate more of that amidst like my speaking engagements and my trainings. I haven't quite figured it out yet, or maybe just I haven't had the courage enough to do it, but that will be some point on the horizon. I will incorporate that.
that's awesome. Yeah, that would be really amazing actually. You said it very right. Sometimes people are physically there but not mentally, and then they're stretched in different directions. We entrepreneurs especially, we have 10 different things to think about every more than that even every day. And if we can incorporate that music part into it, that would be really awesome. And I heard one of the you played that what was that? Maha Mrityunjay mantra. I
Oh
heard that.
yeah.
That was my favorite. I
Om
keep hearing that.
Trambakam Yajamahi Sugandim Pushtivardanam.
Sugarman
Yeah, I
Purvadi.
love
Cool.
Sanskrit. I mostly listen to Sanskrit
Oh
chants.
yeah. Cool. That's amazing. Love it. And in concept of, let's come back to the entrepreneurship. So we heard this concept from so many entrepreneurs. I have heard this like concept of Dream 100, and there are so many different versions around it. I have heard from different people, whether it's Russell Brunson, Dana Derricks, and so many other people as well. But I want to hear from you right there. Like, how do you define the concept of Dream 100?
So the Dream 100 is the fastest, least expensive way to double sales. And the concept is really simple. It's if there's a smaller number of better buyers. So if you market and sell to that smaller number, it's going to be less expensive, but it will produce a higher revenue point. So we just have to focus on those better, bigger buyers with laser focus, because today we just spray and pray, right? We reach out to all of these different companies. We're posting here, we're putting content there, and there's no focus or clarity to what kind of clients you'd actually like to work with. Who are the types of clients that benefit the most from you? Who are the ones that are actually hurting because you're not there? That's something I learned from Tom Schaff, who I love. He had a great story about this where it's a great concept to explain it. So he had a client that had 969 clients, and they were in the tens of millions of dollars. I think nearing 9 figures, and they were trying to figure out how to increase their sales. And after analyzing it, he realized that 92% of their revenue came from only 13 of those 600 or 969 clients. So instead, he said, I think you should fire 900 of your clients and go after these 4 companies. And they looked at him like, are you insane? They went after one company, won that one company, and that one company doubled their sales. One.
Wow.
So we think that we have to spray and pray and do all of this work. But if we get hyper focused on
Mhm.
what's that one client that will completely change your world, and can you multiply that? You could even have just 10. You could even just have
Wow.
one, like that example, right? Um, my father taught it Dream 100, so many decades ago. I think today we could reformat this into just the target 12. I did an event when I first inherited the company, because I wanted to bring us back into the world and say, this wasn't just a tragedy, this legacy carries on. So I got 12 of the biggest people in my industry to promote an event, and I generated 30,000 leads in that 30 days without spending a dime on advertising. It was just from the power of 12. So I would even challenge that today, because there's so many moving parts, just to come up with that dream list. I challenge you, can you make one client that will completely change your world,
Yeah.
multiply that by 10, and just focus on those? Let's see if you can do that first. The
Mm.
advanced is Dream 100.
Got you, got you. That makes sense. Definitely makes sense. And our new version of the book is coming, right? The Ultimate Sales.
Yes.
Are you gonna include that concept in that as well? Is it gonna be D12?
I will introduce parts of it, yes.
Wow, amazing. Is there any particular dates? I'm excited for that one.
Uh, we're having, because of the supply chain issues,
Okay.
paper is a hard thing to come by. So at the moment, it's looking like pre-order or special bulk orders will be available in September, and then Amazon will be available in October. It was supposed to be August, so
Okay.
um, having a little bit of a difficulty with sourcing paper.
All right. Okay. I'm excitedly waiting for that version of the book. Definitely gonna read it. And one question behind this concept of Dream 100. I'm a big fan of like frameworks. When I teach, I'm a coach. I teach my students like always in the form of frameworks. Have you made or figured it out like what exactly, if in your wording, what would be the framework of that Dream 100? Obviously, we're gonna be reading that in your book. If you want to condense it in a short form, is there any particular framework that you follow to get the Dream 100?
So where I would start for those that have a company is I would start with pulling a list of your database. So I'm sorry, of clients. So whoever you've worked with, if it's the last, depending on how many clients you work with, let's say the last year, pull up a list of all of your past clients and then how much revenue they've spent with you,
Mhm.
and list it by, most to least. And then I would analyze that list. So, who is, a lot of the time we find with clients that 80% of the revenue does come from more that 20%. It's the 80-20 rule still, even less. I mean, that one company, right? 13 clients produced 92% of the revenue. So, it was even smaller than an 80-20 rule. But I would analyze your clientele, see who are the biggest, better buyers, and then really break down, how did they find you? How did you find them? What worked about it? A Dream 100, we want to make sure that we can, because what happens a lot of the time for companies is that they accidentally fall upon a really big client and they're really grateful for that great client. But then they don't actually go back and reverse engineer and figure out why that was a great client. Where did they come from? What commonalities do they have? If you have multiple of them, understanding today, clients come to us based on our core values. We're posting online, we're sharing how we feel, we share about who we are. Maybe you find out that a bunch of them actually came from your church, or maybe they came from a networking event, or maybe they all happen to like sailing as well. So maybe you should join a sailing yacht club or something, right? So we really want to analyze who those bigger, better clients are, um, and then reverse engineer, right? So if you understand who they are, then we need to understand where they spend their time. So start analyzing or even asking them, right? Where do you spend your time? Are you more on LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter? Do you watch different news stations? Are you listening to different influencers? So you start gathering that material to understand who that better buyer is, where they spend their time, what has their attention, because we're trying to get more of their attention. So I would say, as a framework, that would be the first start, is to really analyze what you already have.
That's the biggest one. Yeah. I hope you guys, people who are watching us, making notes of it. It's definitely a useful one. And you mentioned it very right that it's more of the time it's data tracking actually, right? And obviously the reverse engineering. Once you track the data where they came from, all you have to do the implement the same step, reverse engineering, and you'll find that. And so many times I have also felt that sometimes people came to me like, where did you see me? Like some YouTube video or some, and they are the best clients actually. And you never try to cold pitch them, it's just happened to be fall into your plate. That's amazing. And what is the number one mistake people make in that thing? when they try to implement that framework of Dream 100?
The first step, so much of the time they think they know who their Dream 100 is and they actually don't. So I just ran a boot camp. I have a 47-point checklist of how to identify your Dream 100. It's crazy how ineffective businesses can be around choosing who that is. It's a lot of the time it's breaking the barriers of what you thought you knew, to open up the possibilities of who that could be, because it could be an affiliate, it could also be a different distributor, it could be a different press company, it could be an influencer, it could be a joint venture. There's so many different ways that you can dream 100. Like, for instance, I had a client, Carrie Warburg Block. She's CEO of Earthkind, and she went from she was a farmer's wife out of North Dakota, and she had this idea that you shouldn't kill rats and mice, and we can do it in a natural way. And everybody looked at her like, "You're crazy. That is really weird. Why would we not want to kill rats?" And she's, she lived on a farm, and she said, well, my children, my grandchildren, and my dogs all get, they could eat the poison, they could get caught in a trap. These things are not only hurting them, it's also hurting our families. So she created an all natural essential oil packet to deter them away. And now she sold over 55 million units, which
Oh,
is
wow.
amazing, over the last decade, from a concept that nobody believed in. And she used her Dream 100 by getting on press. She got on Channel 5 News. She got on she would use education to get into the news and the media. And then she'd say, I'll send all of the traffic that I get from this news station to you, Mr. Distributor, Mr. Lowe's, Home Depot, right? So she would use the media to fill. So they would say, well, yeah, we'll stock your product if you're going to send a bunch of leads our way, right? A bunch of people walking into the store because you're going to be on Channel 5 News 3 days from now. So that's one way that she creatively used the Dream 100 to get her dream distributors through dream news stations.
That was a smart concept. I love that
Yes.
part. Exactly. And keeping that, you basically create an alternative to keep them away instead of killing them. That was amazing. And then you get all that hype from media and all that. That's amazing. Cool. That's a good idea. Love it. Coming to the part, I want to still dive deep into the little bit of the spirituality part of you follow Guruji. I saw that on the Instagram. You
Yes.
shared that yesterday. I really love that part. And that's your spiritual teacher, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So, what is the connection between spirituality and business for you?
So when I first inherited the company, never in a million years did I think I could step in as CEO. I was just like, what can I do to get out of this? This is crazy. I can't handle this. And it was actually Guruji that said that I could. And a guru, so guru actually breaks down, Americans have really tainted this word, but from Sanskrit, which maybe you know or don't,
Yep.
right? Gu is the dispeller of darkness, Ru is the uplifter of light. So it's someone that brings you from ignorance to bliss. And they guide you to connect to your own confidence in yourself and the ability to discern on the truthful pathway of your true destiny, not just what you're told by your society or told by your family or your friends. You connect to who you truly are. So it was my guru who said, you should step in as CEO. You can do it. And I looked at her and went, that's just crazy. I don't think so. And 2 years of her saying, Amanda, step in as CEO. And I'm like, no way. But she helped all along the way. And when I finally stepped in, I just kept saying, like, I don't know the answers to any of these questions. Like in the first week, the one day someone walks up to me. It's like, okay, first week, someone walks up to me and says, hey, Amanda, the merchant service company has shut down your ability to pay all your staff. what do we do? And I'm like, what's a merchant service company? The next day, the next person comes to me and goes, Amanda, we're in between CRM systems right now. We've put up $500,000 to get into Salesforce, but we haven't turned it on yet. And we're kind of thinking we shouldn't because of all of the changes that are happening in the company. What do you think? And I'm like, what's a CRM system? Like, I really, it was scary. And my guru taught me that I should take my chanting beads, and every time I don't have an answer to a question, I sit and I would do Wahe Guru. I would do a chant. I would meditate for 108 times. I would count my
Yeah.
things. And she's like, every time you do that, you connect to your higher self and just ask for the answers to come. And so throughout the day, I would have no idea what to do. So I would sit down, pull up my chanting beads, and I would start asking. I would just pray my way through. I prayed my way through the hardest of times. But that discernment, that confidence in myself, and overcoming the limiting beliefs was really the spiritual pathway that my guru assisted me with, and continues to. I still have no idea. I'm such a student, but yeah.
It's amazing. I'm getting chills over here. Actually, same thing my grandmother used to say me. Same exact thing. She's like, chant for 108 times. If you are
Yes.
lost, if you need any answer to the question, just do that. You will connect yourself with the God. Now I'm remembering. I was like maybe 10, 15 years old at that time. And same exact wording I remember. And yeah, that's amazing. Love it. And today I had a talk with her, just like before the interview, 20 minutes ago, I had a talk with her. And I felt so amazing before that. That's amazing. Love it. In
Mhm.
that phase, like obviously to keep that thing running, that was funny that in the first week that you had that, I can imagine your situation at that, it was crazy, right? What were
Insane.
the biggest inspirations behind you, like at that time? What lights you up at that time to keep rolling? Obviously the spiritual part, your guruji, the guidance was there. What else was the biggest inspiration for you?
Um, you mean person or mission or?
I would say both.
So my father passed at 55,
Mm.
and obviously rather traumatic to watch that whole process and be so involved in the process. And I loved my father deeply. I mean, we were born on the same day. If that isn't cosmic
Oh,
enough to show that, there was just a special bond that we had. Um, and I looked at that and went, at first, I felt that stepping in as CEO would be like stepping into a grave right next to my father, because that's what he did. He worked himself to
mm,
his grave, to an early grave. And knowing that I was very similar to my father, that I would work myself into a grave right next to him. So, um, at first that was a huge deterrent, and then after a while, and after studying with guruji and really working on my spiritual path, I started to realize that maybe that is my gift if I can learn another way. And that's what guruji kept telling me, is there is another way. You don't have to do everything in pressure. You can do it in gratitude and humbleness and service, and be a conduit of those positive things. And once I started to learn that and practice that within my organization, in my life, I started to realize, oh, maybe I can help other leaders live in that way where, I mean, never 97% of prospects feel that salespeople are too pushy today. Why is that? Because we've had Amazon teaching us for over a decade now that you can purchase straight from a landing page, right? You
mm,
just look at the customer reviews, you decide if you want it or not based on the features and services, and you click purchase. I mean, people are buying cars and houses without even seeing them. They just see it online and they go, click purchase. I mean, the need for sales today, you can't be pushy. You can't force. I remember a quote that my father used a lot was, close like a vice.
mm,
Today, it's just not the same world as it was a decade ago because of Death Star Amazon. So, um, how to transform the process of sales where you're coming from such a place of service that they just you're just a magnet for them. And then it's effortless and an easy. And if you can practice the frameworks that we teach around how to be the only logical conclusion in your marketplace, it's an easy and effortless process rather than a forceful, pressurizing process. I totally forgot what your question was.
I was asking what's your biggest inspiration behind that? What lights you up?
So my passion for that is, how do we shift this conversation around sales to be more about a bountiful, graceful, grateful experience? And in the meantime, because when you're pressuring a prospect, you're pressuring yourself. You're pressure. The whole process is just pressure. So if I
Mm,
can teach more leaders to live in this different energy, then it will trickle down an organization and can assist more within an organization and then throughout the communities around the world. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, is giving more people the ability to live a rich and full life, which is actually the final chapter of my father's book, the new edition. So I found a letter in the middle of the night at like 4 in the morning before the manuscript was due to the publisher, because I used to go through my father's old emails to understand what he thought of the business. That was the only way that I could really
mhm.
discern anything. So as I was reading through his emails, I found this email where he said, I've generated more wealth in the last 6 months than I have in the last 8 years combined. And it's because of this. And it's similar to what I just shared just now, of this different way, different intention of coming to business. I'll share it more in the book, but that I'm extremely passionate about, because I wasn't able to, you know, save my father, but maybe I can assist others to be there for their families.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You are already taking your father's legacy to the next level now. You're acting as a torch to other people, and I love that part with the sales. That it's not being about convincing people or being creating a pressure. It's more about attracting yourself, like being persuading. I would say that's the right definition of sales. That's amazing. That's amazing, Amanda. I love that all that part. Any last message for our buddy entrepreneurs, and where can people find you, or anything you would
Yes.
share?
So if you'd like to understand what's holding you back from doubling your sales in the next 12 months, we have a quick 5-question quiz on howtodoublesales.com. You answer those 5 questions, and then it produces for you a whole complimentary training on how you can double your sales in the next 12 months. So howtodoublesales.com. And it's so good. I just found where all the comments are. So I see Turner was here. Hi,
Yes.
Turner.
Brilliant.
Aroshi said some nice things. Gurpreet said some
Gurpreet,
nice things.
exactly.
Prakash said some nice things. RJ, good to see as always.
Yeah, all our buddy entrepreneurs. Any message for these people? I will definitely post a link of that in the show notes. People who are watching us live or on replay definitely will do that. Any message for these people? Or somebody already commented how to double
Yeah,
sales.
they're giving the link that I just said.
Amazing.
I mean, I gave so many to boil it down. Um, I think what's been most important in my journey is really granting myself the permission to be my truest self. Because we see this whole world where people project what they want to look like, or what other
Mm,
people think is the way that makes them happy or uplifts them. But I really think going inward and finding those answers is the most critical part to your success, not only in your career, but with your life. So that inward journey is
yeah.
more important. Then the money flows. Then the abundance is easy and effortless. But the hard work is facing yourself in
Yes,
truth and
absolutely.
honesty.
Love it. And rest of the things are, I think, are all the byproducts of what you do if you're true to yourself, inner self. So that's what it is. Amazing, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time coming on and sharing all these insightful things. So you've been so gracious with your time. Love it. People who were watching us, thank you so much. And we'll be coming with another episode. Thank you so much, Amanda, once again. Stay tuned, guys. Take care.